Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back for the brand new video, and today's video genuinely I couldn't have came at a better time after there was people out here howling at the moon demanding an appeal and demanding some VAR after Ryan Porteous got sent off versus Rangers. Well, after the appeal was laughed out the building because it was a clear and obvious red card to every single person who's ever seen a game of football, unless you're a Celtic fan or a Hibs fan in complete denial. The only thing that's left to actually discuss is the old VAR, and should it be introduced in Scottish football. Now listen, I know this is a pretty serious topic to actually be bringing here on the channel, because normally we try and keep things light-hearted and fun and jokey and everything like that as we talk about and go through the rollercoaster ride of what is Rangers Football Club. That's normally what we do right here on the channel, but I wanted to bring this topic right here and discuss it with you, because to me this is absolutely massive. This isn't hearsay ifs or maybes. No, this is happening, and this is a discussion that's happening in the next couple of days that will drastically change our league forever, troops. And I think the way the weekend went, and with the games that was happening and the decisions and all the moon howling from the media puppets that's out there greeting about red cards, I think that has distracted everyone, and this massive vote has just been lost in the old shuffle. And instead of just sitting back and waiting to see what the decision is on whether or not VAR will be introduced to Scottish football, I thought, let's go, me and thee, let's sit and have a conversation and see if it should be. Starting off with what you need to know in case you haven't heard any of this before, and like I said, it's been lost in the old shuffle. Coming this Friday, that's right, in just a couple days time, the SFA and the Spfl will be holding a meeting and a vote with the top flight clubs in Scottish football to get in here and have their say on whether or not they want to implement VAR into the top flight of Scottish football for all the top flight league matches and the latter stages of cup competitions. Now, right off the bat, I know exactly what you're thinking right away. Wait a minute, CJ. The SPFL and the SFA holding a meeting with the top flight clubs in Scottish football involving Dundee. Has Celtic gave them permission to vote? Now, all joking in that aside, I genuinely couldn't resist that. I'm going to go ahead and read you what the SFA Chief Executive Ian Maxwell has said before the actual meeting. He has said, VAR has been under discussion by the Scottish FA's Professional Game Board since its introduction into the laws of the game in 2018. Scottish football took the view that it was preferable to see the technology be refined, overcome inevitable teething problems, and naturally become more cost effective. VAR is here to stay, and in its short period its implementation has advanced significantly while its setup and maintenance costs have been reduced. We are now at the point where we need to discuss and ideally agree on the introduction into Scottish football. The Scottish FA believes it is necessary for the evolution of our domestic game to provide an additional support to our match officials and also maximise their potential on a domestic, European and international stage. End freaking quote. Now, you might have noticed throughout that, ladies and gentlemen, that the SFA isn't hiding what they want the clubs to actually vote for. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, for yet another massive vote that's going to swing the way of Scottish football. Instead of just saying what's happening, blah blah blah, and what the voting is all about, and then allowing the clubs and the representation and everything that's been selected to go ahead and do there, to go there and vote on behalf of their club. Once again in Scottish football, before a massive meeting, the SFA is basically telling every single club what to frickin' vote for. Absolutely no pressure on the old clubs there that's gone there and putting in their vote on behalf of their club. Now, Neil Doncaster's also put a statement ahead of this, but I'm going to do us all a favour and skip by that and no read any of that man's words, because genuinely it was nearly a carbon copy of what I've just read out. It was almost like that meme, remember, you can copy my homework, just change it around. Aye, that's basically what the man done, and I'll do us all a favour and skip listening to him. But one thing that is jumping out at me from both of the statements, as they are absolutely identical from the SFA and the SPFL, and that leading in to this meeting, and it's not just the pressurising of the clubs and what to actually vote for, it's the fact that they keep talking about the money and it's cost effective and it's cheaper and all that now, because I'm hearing all these keywords and all these fancy phrases, but at the exact same time I'm still thinking the exact same thing. How is the Scottish game going to be able to afford this if we can't even afford to pay our referees on a full-time basis? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, still to this day, English football and all that has full-time referees. Scottish football has part-time referees. Are we really going to go and spend all this moolah and all this money on all this technology and this advancement and then put the part-time awful referees in charge of it? That to me Doesn't make any sense. Now, I understand the arguments and everything like that. It'll be that this is a tool to help support the referees and help them get better. But to me, they're all just keywords and phrases that's getting flung about there. And it all sounds nice on paper. But is anyone actually paying attention to what's actually happening down south? Because they're saying things like teething problems and now it's at a state it's much better. No, it isn't, ladies and gentlemen. It's not as if they're having problems upon season. There's still inconsistencies on a game by game basis. Honestly, just watch a game for down south. Scroll through the channels. There's people, there's pundits, there's people going crazy because there's just different decisions made and what's a foul and what's no a foul, despite it all happening at the exact same time, ladies and gentlemen, because there'll be a tight offside that's ruled out in one game but it'll be played on another game because sometimes it's the shot length, sometimes it's where the ball can hit, sometimes there's a foul in the build-up. They'll scroll through 3 or 4 minutes of footage before the goal went in. If there's a foul, they'll blow it off in one game, then they'll blow it off in the other game. And then this whole handball rule is literally just flip a coin and you'll maybe get some, because it could hit the defender's arm before he passes it and a goal goes in. It'll be pulled back for the free kick, or it'll hit off somebody's arm and somebody will hit a 30-yard strike and it'll be given. It's all so differently, and it all depends on the referee who's in the booth sitting there with his feet up playing FIFA 22 as he flicks round and watches the game. This idea that VAR drastically and instantly fixes all the problems and it'll drastically change Scottish football for the betterment is an absolute pipe dream and doesn't fix any of the issues that our game actually has. Like, honestly, this is all baffling to me and it does have me worried, and there's some real alarm bells going off that the people in charge of our game actually thinks this is the way to improve the standard of the referee. No, he's spending a wee bit of money and spending the money you would be spending on VAR in the coaching and the education system of referees and actually getting a better crop of referees in our game. Maybe paying them full time so they aren't scunnered by the time it gets to the weekend because they are part-time, they've got multiple jobs or anything like that. No, that's no how to improve Scottish football. The people in charge of our game thinks the way to improve Scottish football is to buy a person that can't drive a frickin' Lamborghini. Because to me, that is the downside of this. It's the people that's in charge of it and the rules that will be actually set. Because believe it or not, despite everything I've said so far, I've got nothing against the actual technology itself, because the technology again is to help it. We've seen it in American football for years. When it's something clear and obvious, they will be able to overturn it. But the key phrase in there is clear and obvious, and that is where you have to look into the rules of VAR, because again, it's no a magical mystical cure that's going to fix absolutely everything. I think if you look at the way it was introduced first in the first World Cup, where you barely heard about VAR, you only saw it a couple of times when something was clear and obvious for offside or if a handball was used. That's the only time you ever saw it, and the referee went to the monitor and he was the one making the decision, no by committee who's sitting there in a booth, maybe not even in the stadium or anything like that, looking into it and looking into countless replays and taking 5 and 6 minutes to actually do it. That for me isn't the issue. The referee is in charge of the game, should still be the one that's gone there and looking on the monitor. It has to be his decision, no 3 or 4 different people sitting in a booth somewhere. That for me isn't the game, and again for me it has to be the set rules that's in place, because again, if it's clear and obviously offside, bang, get it done and dusted, take the goal off. If there's a handball used to slap the ball in the back of net, fair enough, but all this 3 or 4 minutes away as you scroll back through a minute before the goal to see if there's a bump, if a midfielder trips there another yin 15 yards away from the ball, that's a foul in the build up, let's roll the goal out now, even though that had nothing to do with the game. That's no football for me. And all this malarkey that goes on where you have to enhance and enhance and enhance, like a scene for Blade Runner, the original, by the way, when they zoom in to check if somebody's t-shirt level is a millimetre lower than someone else's. That for me is a lot of piss, and it will strangle the life out of the Scottish game. Because we know for a fact what gets said about Scottish football, right? It's tin pot, it's this, it's a Farmers League, it's that. But I'd take my tin pot Farmers League any day of the week over any other league that's got all this money and it's basically a tourist half scarf society or anything like that. Because say what you want about Scottish football, but we live and breathe every kick of that football. We love our football clubs, and that's the way it should be, ladies and gentlemen. The passion is about it on the park and off the park, and it's about that connection. When you start going too far with the technology and you start taking 5 and 6 minutes to zoom in to see if someone's t-shirt level's here or here to be offside, that is the real issue with VAR. And again, for me, that makes me very, very nervous about the potential impact of this, because on paper, again, the technology sounds great if it's used correctly and has a set rules with it clear and obvious to overturn, but no when it's re-reffing the entire game and they're in charge of every single decision that's made, because that to me isn't football at all. It's not the football I grew up with. I might be getting too old or anything for that, but all this stop start isn't it the game, man? So I have absolutely no idea if I've made any sense with what I'm saying there at all, but again, just to reiterate what I'm trying to say, I don't think the referees are good enough to be given this technology. I think they'll make even more mistakes. If you're seeing full-time referees who's ref Champions League finals and everything like that, making mistakes and making different decisions, can you imagine what our referees are going to be doing with the technology and being able to scroll through? You know how whistle happy these guys are. Can you imagine the amount of fouls they'll see in build-ups and the challenges and everything like that, and all the goals that will be chopped off? People are moaning now. Can you imagine what it will be like that when they can scroll through 6 minutes and get stills, everything? That would be absolutely terrifying. I think if you are going to go for VAR, it's got to be a part of a plan and a decision to maybe get it implemented over the next couple of years after spending significant amount of money and improving the standard of refereeing and having a distinct set of rules. That's the way, I think, if we are going to go VAR, that's the way it needs to go. It needs to go hand in hand with the referees' improvements, more money going into that side of the game as well, and meet it halfway. You can't have it like this, or there'll be even more problems than there is now. So that's everything I've got to say on the subject. That's everything that's been on the noggin. What about you? Let me know down there in the old comment section where you sit regarding VAR and its implementation in Scottish football. Do you think it needs to come in now, or do you think it needs to be in a couple of years? What's your thoughts and opinions? Let me know down there in the old comment section below. And whilst you're hopefully doing that, I will jump over to Twitter and read the old poll prediction on to see what people's actually say. I say prediction, it's not a prediction, old school. I asked the people the exact same question as I asked you. What did you think about the SPFL's introduction of VAR? Should it go ahead? And I'll be honest with you, I'm very, very surprised to see 61% voted aye in favour of VAR being introduced in Scottish football. So I can't wait to read the comments to see why people voted that way. But with everything being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to officially wrap up today's video. Again, if you got involved down there in the comment section, I'll be speaking to you very, very shortly. But until next time, that's been Rocky Boy Johnson. I've been Siege Over 92. Take care of yourselves, all the best, and bye.